All right, welcome to Speak for Yourself from the Crib, presented by Hyundai. Jason Whitlock, Marcellus Wiley. All right, we got a great show planned for you today. LeVar Arrington's going to join us in the next segment. We're going to talk about Lamar Jackson and whether he can repeat as the MVP. Rick Bucher's going to join us later in the show. We're going to talk about why Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is perhaps the most disrespected and underrated player in the history of basketball, maybe in the history of sports. But let's start by bringing in, let's go out to TJ Houshmandzadeh's crib somewhere in Los Angeles. TJ, good to have you. Let's move directly to Roger Goodell and whether or not he should force players, NFL players, to socially distance themselves. Mike Florio from ProFootballTalk.com has written a piece today suggesting that the pictures of Lamar Jackson and Antonio Brown and Hollywood Brown all working out together, and then hearing that Dez Bryant and Dak Prescott working out together. Mike Florio suggesting that Roger Goodell should force NFL players to socially distance. I think that's kind of problematic. Marcellus, what say you?
I think he needs to. I don't think it's problematic at all. He's come out and mandated that all essential personnel not talk anything negative about the draft. So if he wants to make sure that guys don't talk bad about a situation, we got to make sure they don't act bad in certain situations or holding their own workouts or personal workouts with teammates and friends, because that's how you can contract the virus or spread the virus. So we're all in different times right now, and there's not any precedent where you can really sit there and say, that's the example. But Goodell went out there without precedent and said, hey, I don't want to hear anything negative about this draft. Well, I want him to also come down with that heavy fist, as he's used to doing, and telling these players, stay at home. I've seen a commercial with Tony Gonzalez, our own Tony Gonzalez, and Deion Sanders and everybody. They're sitting around saying, hey, we're at home. But I think there are a few players who haven't caught that message just yet. And if you don't get in front of this, it's going to continue to spread in terms of what the NFL players are thinking at home.
Man,
TJ?
He can come out and say that. You think guys are going to listen to that? Like, social distance, don't be on the field working out. I'm going to bet 90 to 95% of guys are working out, if not 100%. You can put that mandate out there and say, do not work out. They'll work out. They just won't post it on social media. And so the majority of guys are working out. This is their livelihood. They would rather be prepared when it gets back going than unprepared. And so if Roger Goodell comes out and says, I mandate all players stop working, they're going to keep working out. They're just not going to post anything on social media.
Yeah, I think we got to remember, regardless of this crisis, we still live in America. And I always say you can't have freedom without the dumb. You can't have the free without the dumb, D-U-M-B. And so what makes America great is people have the right to do dumb things. Now, do they have the right to do dumb things that put other people in jeopardy? No. But I just think for the commissioner of the NFL, this is a slippery slope. I think this is a decision for governors of states, presidents of the United States, mayors in city. They may have to crack down on guys or people in their communities that are doing things that they consider high risk. But I think for Roger Goodell to do this, I think that's a dangerous precedent to go that far, to be that intrusive into how these young guys prepare to protect the millions of dollars and potentially make even more millions. Marcellus, I mean, just think about us right now. There are two people in my apartment helping me do this television show. There's someone that could say, hey, man, Whitlock, what are you doing? Is what you guys are doing on FS1 so important that two people need to come to your apartment every day to help you do a TV show? I just think this is a really slippery, dangerous slope, Marcellus.
Well, I think the fact that we are displaced right now in our own homes doing this, and certainly not doing this full version of what we do on lot in the studio is to my point, which is you got to take different steps and different measures. And we didn't set this up. We didn't say, hey, you know what? I'd rather be in my pool house, my man cave, than on studio lot. We have someone in leadership who took a great step and said, you know what? Let's change how we do this and still go about our business. And that's the same thing with these NFL players. TJ made a good point that the guys would just try and hide. But I'll point out one player in particular I've been talking to this last couple of weeks is Odell Beckham Jr., who said, man, it's hard to get the grind on in the house. But the point is he's in the house getting his grind on, trying to figure this thing out. So I love America, as you said, and I love our freedoms and our liberties. But you know what makes America great? Having Americans. And guess what? You're going out there and spreading this virus all around, man, certainly starts to compromise that. So, dude, you can do a lot of grinding at the crib. I'm not in the league right now. I could get a grind on behind me right now, trust me. And I want to hear that you can't grind at the crib.
TJ, before I ask you for one final thought, I do want to say, like, for Odell Beckham Jr. and other highly paid NFL players, I'm sure many of them have gyms at home. I'm sure there are things that, but not everybody is in that boat where they have everything they need at home. There's a wide disparity in how much people make. Again, I got a comment that I say all the time. It's easier to be healthy when you're wealthy. But TJ, I want to ask you this and take about 50, 60 seconds and we got to move on. Are you still working out with guys? I know you and Jordan Palmer are preparing a lot of young kids for the NFL draft.
Me and Jordan have separated. So he's working out with his guys, and I'll get out on the field with 3 or 4 of them. And hand sanitizer is always handy. And we're doing it. Stay away from each other. And it's not every day. It's a few, two, 3 times a week. But it's you're trying to be aware. And this is the thing, though. The police comes out there, and they'll come out there, and they'll just sit there and watch.
All right, let's move on.
I'll huddle up.
And
No, it's just
I don't want to
field work. Just field work. No huddle. Just field work.
I don't want to rush this next topic, but Rex Ryan has offered an apology for calling Amari Cooper a turd this morning on, I believe, on Get Up. Rex, not a big fan of the Cowboys wide receiver who signed a huge contract extension with the Dallas Cowboys. Rex, in his critique of Amari Cooper, said, no way I would have paid this turd. He's issued an apology. Marcellus, did he need to apologize?
Yeah, he needed to apologize. Look, I'm not emotionally charged, or I don't even think Amari's offended, but call a dude a turd, like, there's 2 apologies. 1, you called a dude a turd, but 2, who still used the word turd? Like you know you really was leaking oil and wanted to say something bad about the guy if turd was the choice word right there. But look, I'm from the school of thought that once you say something like this and you violate the rule as a broadcaster, as anyone should, which is you're supposed to talk about the act, not the actor. And once you violate that rule, if I'm Amari, I'm shooting back. I'm like, okay, but I'm better at my job as a wide receiver than you were even better as a head coach in this league. And if I'm Amari Cooper, I look at my resume. This is a guy who's been to 4 of the 5 last Pro Bowls. Rex Ryan never coached a Pro Bowl wide receiver on his roster in his 8 years. And Amari Cooper, we're talking about 1,000 yards every year except 1. And you're talking about Rex Ryan, out of 8 seasons, only 2 winning seasons. So it's dangerous to get up here in these comfortable settings, and usually when we're in the air-conditioned studio, and get disconnected from the game and the grind. But Amari's no turd in terms of production, and he's certainly not a turd in terms of his personality. Out of line.
TJ?
Does he need to apologize? No, he doesn't need to apologize, and I'm going to tell you why. It's not genuine. It's disingenuous. Like, that's what he really felt. He thought Amari Cooper was a turd. To me, you shouldn't have used that word because you make it personal. But apologize for what? He does not believe that an apology is genuine. And so why would you apologize? I'm sure Amari Cooper is like, I'm not worried about Rex Ryan. And from that point, Amari Cooper would be the best receiver that Rex Ryan could have had the chance to coach. And so from that perspective, you let what you've done speak for itself. But Rex Ryan apologized, and he was forced to apologize. He doesn't really want to apologize. He just had to do it, I guess, for politics.
Yeah, I'm old and old school. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never harm me. And so I didn't see it necessary for the apology. What I would say to Rex Ryan, though, and probably why ESPN forced him to apologize, he had a legitimate critique of Amari Cooper, a very legitimate critique that I found fascinating. Guy doesn't show up, and he said the same thing that happened to him in Dallas happened to him with the Raiders. And it was all overshadowed because of the choice of words to use the word turd. And now no one has to deal with his actual substantive critique of Amari Cooper. And his point was Dallas has done something foolish. They've paid a guy that you can't really count on. And again, you go look at his resume in Oakland or in Dallas. He's a guy you can't count on. They've paid him, but they haven't paid Dak Prescott. That should have been the discussion going on today, but instead we're stuck on the fact that Rex Ryan talked on TV the way coaches talk in private. I don't have a real problem with it.
And
I'd rather have the substantive discussion, but go ahead, Marcellus.
That's a problem, though. I mean, up here, look, off mic, off camera, I'm a whole different animal, brother. That's why I don't have a podcast, because I will be out there giving you all the bombs you wanted. But at the same time, when you do this, you got to understand how to be professional. And that means, look, you're going to have a lot of guys, some great, some not so great. But let's keep it between the white lines and not take it to a personal place. You're saying you can't count on Amari Cooper. I could count on Rex Ryan going out there and losing as a head coach. And that's see, I'm with the jokes. Like, it's fine to clown. But when you just have a great critique of someone, and then you add on this layer, which really is the personal attack, I just don't find that there's a place in our business to do that, especially with the platform and the eyeballs we have. We have too much leverage in that situation to start mischaracterizing people.
Well, we got to move on to a guy. LeVar Arrington's going to join us next, and a lot of his comments are turd-ish. I hope I can say that without having to apologize. But we're going to talk about Lamar Jackson being the favorite for MVP, and we'll hear from a guy